Let's talk about how many stocks you should own. It's a very common question for a beginner, and usually beginners fall into one of two camps. The Some individuals will say, "I need to own 100 stocks, 1,000 stocks. I want to be diversified." The other school of thought will be, "I need to focus. I'm going to buy 5 stocks." Often these individuals that focus, you'll look at their portfolio and it'll go something like this: Facebook, Amazon, Cisco, Intel. What's wrong with that portfolio? A lot of great companies, a lot of companies I own, but you're very focused in a certain sector and industry, and often these companies will move in lockstep with one another, or they'll hit industry headwinds and they'll have a lot of issues. Now, imagine during the 2008 financial crisis, if you owned 5 banks. Check out over here, my dog's peeking in the window here, but you can get a lot of trouble in certain scenarios where you invest in stocks and you're all focused in one industry or industries that are indirectly related, right? Looking at the markets today, what if you had you only had 5 stocks in your portfolio and 2 of which were airlines? You could be struggling right now. So, looking at those two schools of thought, let's dive into that more. So, what are the benefits of a diversified portfolio? The first benefit of a diversified portfolio is you have a bunch of different stocks, and if any one sector or any one stock experiences some issues, you're not going to get hit as bad, right? Because you're spread out over a multitude of stocks. Now, what is another benefit of being diversified? It allows you, if you do it right and actually learn about these companies, you get a wide swath of understanding of the market over drivers of different companies and things like that. But now let's look at the downside of owning a lot of stocks. First, if you're going to own 100 or 1,000 stocks, you might as well get an ETF fund or something through Vanguard that you're going to pay minimal fees and it automatically diversifies you. Now, another downside of being highly diversified is most of us work a job, we have a family, where we want to do other things than sit at the computer or on the phone and read and learn about stocks. And once you get over a certain amount, you can't possibly do the proper research and proper ongoing due diligence to actually monitor stocks of that volume, right? So that's another downside. A third downside is you're going to be spread thin, right? Most of us aren't multimillionaires where we have enough money to put in that many stocks where an outperformance is really going to move the needle. So, looking at it from the other way of extreme concentration, right? If you're a great stock picker, one of the benefits is you pick 5 great stocks and you have a 5-stock portfolio. More than likely, you're going to outperform somebody that is a highly diversified portfolio or somebody that is invested in a simple S&P 500 index fund. The problem with that, though, is most of us are not good stock pickers. No matter how much your favorite YouTuber that gets on YouTube and screams and yells about the next 5 hot stocks, they don't know what's going to happen short term in the market. They might think they do, they might act like they do, but they probably don't. So when you're extremely concentrated, it's going to be a challenge, right? You'll have more time because you won't have to research as many companies, but you're going to have to watch those companies a lot more closely than somebody that's diversified. If you're concentrated in a few companies, some of the downsides, if those companies do bad, you're more than likely going to seriously outperform somebody that's highly diversified. If those companies at the end of the day are in a concentrated sector or industry or tangentially related to one another, if that area of the economy does bad, you're going to do bad. So personally, now let's talk about what I personally do. I can't tell you what's right for you. That's something you have to figure out. Personally, what I do, I like to have between 25 and 50 holdings in my individual stock portfolio. Now, sure, in my retirement accounts, I hold some ETFs and whatnot. But now we're talking about individual stock picks here. I like to have between 25 and 50. That gives me the right level of diversification. Obviously, I got to be careful. I don't buy all bank stocks or something like that. But that gives me the right level of diversification. I can keep up with the amount of due diligence I have to do on my existing holdings, plus leave time to continue to research new holdings. And it gives me enough concentration where if I have a handful of winners, my portfolio more than likely is going to outperform. And it also gives me some downside protection that if I have a couple stinkers in that bucket, that it's not going to draw me down too far. Now, as you guys know who've been watching this channel, I tend to invest a lot in dividend stocks. And, dividend stocks, the great thing about that is if you have a decent amount of holdings somewhere in the 25 to 50 ratio, if any one of those holdings cuts their dividend, it's no big loss. I can drop it out of the portfolio if I choose to, add in another dividend payer, and I'm, right back pretty much where I started. And at the end of the day, like I said, I can't tell you what's right for your portfolio. I'm just telling you what I like to do for my own portfolio. But just before you go out there and either highly concentrate or highly diversify, think about the pluses and minuses of that approach and what you can do long term and the amount of research and work that's going to take you to either completely focus on one area of a handful of stocks or completely try to have enough knowledge about and spend the time doing ongoing due diligence for all those stocks. It's really hard to do, and I really don't think many of us are up to that task. But, feel free to prove me wrong if that's the area you want to focus in. But at the end of the day, when someone asks me how many stocks should I be invested in, that's my response. All right, guys, I hope you like this video. Make sure to subscribe, click the bell notification, and if you have any questions, or how about posting down in the comments and let me know how many single stocks you have in your portfolio and what you think is best and why.